This is Steve, and in this episode, I talk with Mike and Janie, the Q Morning Crew on WQDR in Raleigh, North Carolina. But before I do, if there's a radio pro you think I should talk to or a topic you'd like to hear about in this podcast, email me a voice memo. I can be reached at steve@interprep.com.
From InterPrep.com, this is the InterPrep Podcast.
Hey, it's Mike Wheelis.
Hey, I'm Janie Carruthers.
First of all, congratulations on another nomination. And we're not going to say which one because every time I open the trades or I look on your Facebook, it's either an ACM nomination or a CMA nomination. Congratulations.
Yeah, Janie's like my
you.
work wife, so she has to remind me what we've won and what we haven't won.
I have to remind him of a lot of stuff, Steve, let me tell you.
How long have you guys, Mike, I know you celebrated your 25th anniversary there a couple of years ago.
Yep. Janie and I have been together 13 years this September.
Yep.
It's great. Janie, what do you like about working with Mike there?
Yes, I'd like to know.
At this point, we're just a really well-oiled machine, and it really makes it easy because we can bounce back and forth off of each other so easily. And, you know, a hand gesture or a look in the eyes, and we know exactly how to read that. And we can, you know, if somebody's in trouble, we know the look. And we just mesh really well together at this point because we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. And Mike, how about you? What do you like about working with Janie?
Janie, I always joke that I'm the franchise and she's the fan, and that's really what she is. She's the one that knows all the artist info, the songs, the albums, the tours, what they did on Instagram last night, and so I have to get my info from her.
Hashtag fangirl.
Janie, you came into a show that had been, when you came in, around for, well, over a decade. When did you feel like you two were clicking? How many? Because you've been with the show now 13 years. How long did it take for you to feel like, okay, we got this?
I think we really hit our stride 2 to 3 years in. To be honest, I mean, it took a little bit, and at that point we were actually a 3-person show, so it took a little bit of time to find the rhythm and figure out how to keep that machine going. But I would say I felt like 2 to 3 years in, we hit our stride, and that's when we started getting nominations.
And Mike, do you feel the same way? Was it a couple of years? And on that note, when it was time to find a new co-host, I don't know what happened to the previous co-host, but why did you end up choosing Janie? How'd that come about?
Well, actually, we were a 4-person morning show with our newsman for a while. And then PPM came into the market, and things got really tight. We had to become like an NBA ball game, back and forth as fast as we could. So the newsman kind of went out of the studio, and then we lost one of our partners to another job, and we found that the streamlining of the show was much easier with 2 people, so we just decided to keep it that way.
So, Janie, how did you come into the show?
Well, so, like 13 years ago, he had a different partner. We joke with him that he couldn't keep a partner. I mean, he was keeping them for like a couple years at a time, then they were out.
I was the Elizabeth Taylor of the market.
And then, so they actually held an open casting call looking for a female. And I applied along with a lot of other people, and come to find out, our PD at the time, Lisa McKay, had said they weren't even necessarily thinking they would find somebody full time to fill the position. But I think that our chemistry really worked right off the bat. I mean, we felt there was something there. So ultimately, they hired me, and we've never looked back.
That's great. Congratulations. It's interesting because I totally see what you guys mean when it takes a couple of years. It might take 2 years or 3 years or more to really sort of become one, with the show and get each other. Got to have the chemistry up front, but don't expect it to be clicking right from the very beginning. Right, Mike?
Yeah, it's like a marriage. This whole thing is a marriage. You date, and then you get to know each other's habits, and then you're married, and you go, okay, she's in that time of the day where she gets tired.
Sounds kind of weird when you put it that way.
It really is, though. But it really is. I spend more time with my work wife than I do with my home wife, and I would say probably the same. You'd probably say the same thing.
I have known him longer than his real wife has, so trust me, I've seen him come and go. So
the wives?
Yes.
No,
yeah. The girlfriends. I'm glad you kept the one you kept and not some of the previous ones.
I like the chemistry I'm hearing right now. That's great. What What time do you guys come in the morning? What time's your show start? But what time do you get there? And then once you arrive, what happens between the arrival time and the start of the show?
Well, the start of the show is 5:30. I find the older I get, the more time I need to get up and get moving and start, because it's not like it used to be back in the day, Steve. You and I would walk in with a newspaper. Now you've got social media to go through, InterPrep to go through, and all the other audio from last night's TV is so much to go through. Plus, we've got all the contests. We've got so much going on. It takes a little longer. So I get in. My goal is 4:30, but it's sometimes 4:45. Janie gets in about 5. And she's usually kind of helping us out by getting some coffee for us.
Yeah, 5-ish, depending on if I make the Starbucks run for us, which I do quite frequently because we usually need the extra jolt. And I also have learned over the years through working with Wheelus is he calls it setting up his house. He likes to have time to be left alone, to look through everything and like make notes on the run sheet, and he likes to be left alone to do that. So me rolling in around 5-ish gives him time to do that, and then I show up, I'm like, the coffee's here, let's go. And we talk about things that are big in the headlines, or did you see this last night? Or more often than not, we're talking about what we cooked for dinner last night, because that's where we are in our lives and stuff like that. And then the show starts at 5:30. We end around 10 o'clock, and then depending on the day, I mean, we have meetings or planning. We try to plan as much as we can for at least the next day. We try to look ahead as far as possible. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. But yeah, that's kind of how the mornings go for us.
Yeah, you guys, one of you brought up the fact that, you've got to go through social media. You're going through InterPrep or other show prep services, the online.
We would never have anything other than InterPrep. I've had InterPrep since 1997.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
The problem that I have explained to people isn't trying to figure out what to talk about so much anymore. It's trying to figure out what not to talk about, because now we have almost an unlimited supply of show prep.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that's part of my problem is there's so much to go through that finding the real top 5 headlines in the news or entertainment or country news, whatever it is, it's really harder these days.
Do you guys have a favorite feature that you really, Janie, that you really look forward to doing every day?
I enjoy, we do a segment called #Nashville, where it's kind of like, just things happening in Nashville with the artists. Thomas Rhett surprised everybody announcing that they're expecting their 3rd baby girl. I like giving the news about the artists. I like that particular feature because, again, it goes back to I'm #fangirl. That's who I am. I love the music. I love the artists. I love the industry. And that's kind of my role on the show. So I always enjoy that. And to your point about there being so much information out there, I think it also helps to be discerning about looking at the information you have and saying, well, this is information that we need to share on the air, and maybe this is something that's more for social content.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but we sort of see every time we open the mic, we see that as an opportunity to deliver more information or entertainment. Not so much a live liner about an upcoming event, although we do have to do those service elements, or the weather, which we know now people are getting on their phone. But, we've got 4 actual commercial breaks on my show every hour, but we talk going in, we talk coming out, plus there's some quick talkovers. So really, I feel like when we look at our show grid, we're kind of filling in anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 little items every single hour. And a lot of times we repeat those, but really there's so much content out there and so many opportunities for us to touch and share with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about 25 years, well, now 27 or so, Mike. What's different now as a morning host than it is, now versus then? What's the biggest difference in your mind?
We have a running joke on the show, since I'm the old dinosaur, that every now and then when I do something that's old, I go, hey! And they'll all bust out in laughter. But, when I first started, it was a newspaper. It was carts. We did everything without music beds. We were live on the air. We'd even mention, hey, we're going to call the mayor in a few minutes. And we hadn't even told the mayor yet, and we're just calling them live on the air. And so everything was spontaneous. And we, interviews or our talk segments could go anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes long, and nobody seemed to care. And we probably would play 4 songs an hour. And then that started to change dramatically over the years. Now we play probably how many? 8 an hour, and the segments are about 2.5, 3 minutes long, and sometimes shorter.
It's more quick hits.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically in that because of internet. I used to have dial-up just to get something on, to email somebody, and before we didn't even have email when I got started.
So, Janie, you guys have talked about how you're a team, and it took you a couple of years, but you started to click. Although there was chemistry right from the get-go. Do you ever feel comfortable enough? And this goes both ways to say, you know what, I'm going to push back on that. We don't want to talk about that thing, or here's a different direction I would like to go. We often do it this way, but here's a different direction I'd like to go today.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If one of us isn't feeling something, like if somebody brings up a topic, I could even look at him and tell, I'll be like, you're not feeling that, are you? He's like, yeah, no, you hadn't sold me, and vice versa. But I mean, that's the honesty of what we do. I mean, and nobody's feelings get hurt. It's like, okay, well, because I'm famous, I'll go, okay, random thought. And he goes, oh boy, here we go, random thought. Because I have these random thoughts all the time, but I
Constantly.
say them because it can spark, maybe that random thought wasn't the best idea, but we can spark another idea off of whatever my random thought was. But oh yeah, we're honest about that. Or we'll even say, okay, I'm not 100% sold on that, but let's give it a try and see what happens. And if we put it out there and we feel like we give it a good setup and we don't get any bites back, then we just bail.
Yeah, and I'll bring up a list of stuff, and then suddenly she jumps into that random thought, and I'm like, wait a minute, look, you're going somewhere else. So we're like lawyers. We're negotiating constantly, because I'll go, it's not of interest to me, but that doesn't mean it's not of interest to the public just because I don't watch this particular show or whatever. But we usually come up with the good stuff after we've sat down and really talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sort of test in the same way. We sort of test topics with each other. Like there are some things we come in and we go, okay, we know we've got to talk about this thing or that thing because everybody's going to be talking about it. But then there might be something that happened to to one of us over the weekend, and we're like, hey, what do you think of this? And then the other person is looking for the conversation. So I'm sharing, hey, this thing I think might be interesting to talk about, and she's looking at me going, okay, here's where we can go with that, because we know we've got to turn it into a good conversation that people will enjoy listening along with.
Yeah, and you never know from day to day, too. You could bring something up, like just the other day, we brought up a talk topic that we knew would kill, and it didn't. And normally it would. And we could probably bring it up tomorrow, and it would kill. It just, you never know. The listeners are fickle. You never know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
How do you guys plan the show? So the show's wrapping up, and I don't know about you guys, but even during the show, we're already kind of looking at tomorrow. And you know what? That thing we did really early this morning, we can literally rerun it in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. But how do you plan it out? Is it paper? Do you use a spreadsheet? What does that look like?
I've got a little run sheet, and I'm very anal about it. And so before, like you said, before the end of the show, I'm already plugging in stuff for the next day. Then I have to go, okay, what's the contest we got to run tomorrow? Or what's the promotion we're doing that we need to plug in tomorrow? Where should we plug it in? And she'll tell me, she'll pull up whatever, or she'll say, hey, why don't we do this, recycle this tomorrow? Because we also recycle what we've done during the prime time of the show, early in the show. And I'll hand it to you now, wife.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, honestly, we probably could recycle more than we do and get more mileage out of our really good bits. But we typically, not always, but typically recycle one bit from the previous day early in the next morning, like he said. I mean, we do a best of show on Saturday. So a lot of what we do, we're banking for that as well. But yeah, we try to say, oh, well, we played that Florida Georgia Line interview today, but the show is Friday. Let's go ahead and make sure we remember to plug that in a different hour on Friday, and he'll go ahead and go and pull up the run sheet for Friday and go ahead and type that in so that we don't forget about it.
And when you say type that in, it's Mike, and he's been there a long time, so he literally pulls out a typewriter and types it in.
It's actually a chisel and a piece of stone.
Hey, until I got a kid to show me how, I literally typed something and print it and cut it out and paste it on a sheet of paper.
Taped it with some clear tape.
What about throughout the rest of the day? So you guys, I don't know about your morning show, but very typically you might meet briefly after the show. But man, these days radio personalities are busy meeting clients, helping out sales, writing commercials, getting off to appearances, delivering donuts, whatever that is. Beyond that, then, throughout the day, are you communicating with each other throughout the day and in the evening? And if so, how are you doing that?
Here's what's going to happen today. I'm going to go home. She's going to go home. And at some random part of the day, I'll get an email from her regarding some story in the news that we could use for either a good news segment or some kind of upcoming event. And I'll send her something back that she can use for hashtag Nashville or something like that. And then, we're obviously acquiring stories from the day's event to use for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I usually will start my sheet on my phone, any information that she sends me or that I find from InterPrep, and I send it off to myself in the morning. I'm going to tag you in.
Yeah, I mean, we communicate constantly. I mean, almost every day.
Yes.
There will at least be a text message exchanged or an email exchanged. It's like a 3-ring circus at my house. I've got 2 kids in school and 2 different schedules, and I'm juggling all of that and all those other things that you mentioned. And he's Mr. Housewife at his house. He's cooking dinner because his wife works a little later, and so we're trading back and forth. Oh, this happened to me, and oh, well, I'm doing this, or I made this for dinner last night, and we just sort of, either just to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, or to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I think we might be able to use this for tomorrow or another day.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to do that throughout the day. I've talked to some morning shows where they use, Facebook Messenger, and that's sort of their running prep sheet throughout the day. You guys are using email and text, but it's nice to be able to do that. And then already when you come in the next morning, you've already got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. You talked about Mike, and he's going home and he's making dinner. I want to switch subjects here. And you've got your kids, Janie. And does Mike ever bring in leftovers that stink up the studio? Asking for a friend.
That stink up the studio? No. I would say, occasionally he'll bring in like leftover pizza, which is super random. But sometimes he'll fire that up for breakfast, and it doesn't stink up the studio, but it's not a smell you expect to have at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
I can eat pizza any time of the day.
He loves pizza. Yeah. We've had a few burned popcorn incidents, though that has been a while since that's happened, but he really doesn't bring anything that stinks up the studio.
And Mike, on Janie, she said she's got to have her Starbucks. Anything else that she's just got to have once in a while in the morning show?
Well, she's very particular about certain things. So I have to put everything in my phone regarding Starbucks or anything in particular because she likes things a certain way.
Well, see, I know his order. He has to write mine down. I know his order. And if he gives me an order that's off the cuff, I know how to go in and customize it, even if he doesn't tell me to customize it, because I know if it's got too much of this or too much of that, he's not going to like it.
And she's great at folding my clothes. And
Stop. I'll draw the line there.
Various other...
Only the station T-shirts. That's it. That's all she'll fold. Here's a real quick suggestion for you, since you both like the Starbucks and you have different orders. Put the apps on your phones, but share the same account. And that way, Mike, you can go ahead and add to the shopping cart at Starbucks what it is you want. Then when Janie drives through at 5 a.m., it's already there.
That is a good point. I do love my Starbucks app because since I'm the one who 9 times out of 10 makes the stops, I get to accumulate those rewards on my account. So every now and then I get myself a free drink.
I just got the iPhone, so I'm working on downloading the app.
I keep telling him, you got to get that app. You got to collect your rewards.
Guys, thank you so much. We have Mike Wheelis and Janie Carruthers, the Q Morning crew at WQDR in Raleigh, North Carolina. Congratulations on your long-time success, and you guys sound like you're having a great time. And really, that's the best part of doing morning radio, because if you're not having fun, then you got to find something else, right?
That's right. You got it.
Thank you for having us on, Steve. We really had a good time.
Thanks, Steve.
And that's the InterPrep podcast. Got a suggestion for me? Record a voice memo and email it to steve@interprep.com. If you'd like to connect with other radio pros, we've got a private Facebook group. You can get there by going to interprep.com/Facebook. And remember, since 1993, we've been sending out a free daily show prep email. Get it by going to interprep.com/free. I'll talk to you soon, and have a great show.